Star Pokemon. Whether you love them or you hate them, these Pokemon have been a massive part in competitive doubles since the very existence, and none holds truly to those statements than the Kanto starters. From Mega Evolutions to Gigantamax forms, they have proven time and time again, sharing their own limits to be at the very top. However, can I fix them? Can I make them even better? Well, this is what this new video series is going to be all about. Me fixing every single starter Pokemon from Generation 1 to Generation 9. Here's some ground rules first things first before we actually start things off. Every single base stat total needs to end up being 535, and that's just because Swampert's base stat total is 535, and it's the highest base stat total of any starter Pokemon. Number 2, no dragon types will be added because it fucks up the fire, water, grass combination in terms of the weaknesses and stuff, so I don't want to deal with that because it would be too much of a hell. It's just weird, so no, we're not doing that. No. Number 3, I can't just give random abilities, I can't just give random stats without a proper justification. For example, I won't just give Wonder Guard to Charizard. It doesn't make any sense. So, I will just try, or at the very least, justify why I will give a specific Pokemon a specific move or a specific ability and all that fancy jazz, and why the stats are reoriented as that. Let's start off with Venusaur. Now, Venusaur is a grass and poison type with the ability Chlorophyll, which is extremely good. It's an amazing ability which allows it to move even faster in the sun. Now, its stats are pretty solid overall. They're not too bad. They're not shitty or anything. Has a base HP of 80, 82 in attack, 83 in defense. Special attack is 100. Same goes for special defense. And its speed is 80. But what if I were to change its stats? Well, I don't see why it has 82 in attack. It's not really using its attack stat for anything. Most Venusaur sets anyways are running special oriented moves because its special attack is just way better. So I just decided to lower down that attack stat. Plus, I added just a little more special attack so that it could hit a little bit harder, and I gave it a little more speed, and I'll explain why in a bit. Its new stats are as follows: HP 85, attack 68, sorry I didn't put it 69, I know, people are sad in the comments, defense 90, special attack 105, special defense 100, and its speed 92. Now, the reason why I gave its speed stat 92, to keep it simple, is that it's going to be even more faster while in the sun. Again, like I said, Chlorophyll is an ability that boosts the speed stat of the user to the wazoo. It is great, it is fantastic, and I think even though it's not going to be as fast as Pokemon like Jumpluff that are a little more, quicker in the sun, it will still be on par with other Pokemon in the meta. Plus, it is now a little more defensive with just adding that extra 5 on the HP stat and giving it a little more defense so that it gets a little more room to kind of just, live a couple of hits here and there. And again, I'm not changing its ability since Chlorophyll is actually a really decently good ability on Venusaur. Especially paired up with the following moves that we're adding to Venusaur. Spore. Okay, I'm gonna be very honest. I don't get it why Venusaur does not have access to Spore. I think it's a bit weird. But hey, it has access to Sleep Powder, so who am I to say? But adding Spore to the roster of moves that Venusaur has allows it to get a move that's actually 100% accurate in comparison to Sleep Powder. Sleep Powder is not very, very accurate of a move and can sometimes miss, which kind of makes you not want to use Venusaur at all, and you want to prompt to use a better Spore user, like for example, a Mungus. Or even better, you'd probably want to go for a better Sleep Powder user with the same ability like Jumpluff, as I previously mentioned. But with the new speed boost, plus having access to Spore now, it is faster than a Mungus, and has a move that can 100% of the time never miss. On top of this, I also gave it Rage Powder, since again it's a flower, so Spore and Rage Powder duh. And also the flower that it's based off of is... So, it somewhat makes a lot of sense. You probably are thinking right now, holy shit, this looks like a better Among Us. And you would be sort of right. However, it doesn't have access to Pollen Puff in comparison to its counterpart Among Us. And Among Us kind of plays a lot more like a support Pokemon, while Venusaur can be this mixed support, mixed attacker. That way, you could basically just, you know, play a little more defensively on specific turns, and while other turns you can just go ahead and launch sludge bombs all over and just cause a ruckus. Give it Spore, 100% accurate move to sleep all the time, and this Pokemon will be sleeping everybody on the battlefield. Now, how broken this is debatable. I think it is somewhat broken to have this in Sun teams, especially with Pokemon like in restricted formats such as Koraidon roaming around and Groudon, but honestly, I think it is pretty solidly balanced. I don't think it changes too much of how Venusaur is already played, but it does make it a lot more powerful and a lot more efficient, per se, on the battlefield. So pretty solid. So Charizard. Charizard is a Fire and Flying type Pokemon, so we're not going to change its typing to Dragon, even though, yes, it looks like a dragon. Shut the fuck up. It's not a dragon. Charizard is a very complicated one to redo since it does have a pretty solid ability being Solar Power, but its stats is where it kind of makes it feel a bit odd. It's kind of like trying to be this, I want to say it's trying to be a weird, like, balanced glass cannon, and it's very weird. It's just a very weird Pokemon overall. But this is what I did for its stats. Instead of having an HP of 78, I changed it for base 80, 84 attack, I gave it 70, defense, I gave it 85 instead of 78, special attack instead of 109, I gave it 112, special defense, I kept it at 85, and finally, the speed, I gave it an extra 4, so it's now at 104 instead of at 100. Now, the reason behind this is kind of simple. As much as Charizard has access to a lot of physical fire type moves, it is really clear that this Pokemon is more of a special attacker. Every time you would see a Charizard being run anyways, it's usually running Overheat, Air Slash, Heat Wave, and then either Focus Blast, a Dragon type move, or just something else, right? Now, the reason why this was very tough to lower down its attack stat to a mere 70, instead of, you know, making it a little more stronger or what have you, is because I don't see why it would need its attack stat. Flying in general is a bit complicated to make physical unless you're like a bird Pokemon, which in that case, that's a-okay, we give you Brave Bird and all that stuff. But for Charizard, it wouldn't make any sense to make it have access to Brave Bird since it's not a bird to begin with. But I wouldn't just give Charizard Brave Bird for the sake of it having Brave Bird. And anyways, what other physical attack it has access to is like Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Flare Blitz, which are very good attacks, but honestly, you don't really see it being used in general. Plus, I'm not gonna lie, I want Charizard to have access to a good stab flying type move. So obviously, while Air Slash is not the best, nor is Hurricane, especially because it is a Sun Pokemon and Hurricane's not good in Sun, I still want Charizard to have access to really good flying type moves. In the process of all this, I did make it have access to Earth Power. It is a very strong coverage move for Charizard. I think it would help and benefit it a lot. It already has access to Earthquake, as previously mentioned, so I just feel like if it has access to Earthquake, why not make it have access to Earth Power? That way, you know, it can have some form of coverage over various Pokemon, like Poison-type Pokemon, or even Steel-types in general. If, for example, you don't have Overheat anymore, or you don't want to risk to lower your special attack stat, you can just go for an Earth Power, and then there you go. So overall, I think Earth Power makes a lot of sense, too. And I totally forgot to mention this, but with the access of Earth Power, it can actually hit Heatran. It can actually go on Heatran. 1v1 it. I just bumped my mic. I hope that did not fuck it up. I also gave it access to Helping Hand. I checked on Bulbapedia if it didn't have access to Helping Hand. It didn't, which is very weird. So I give it access to Helping Hand. Simply put, a lot of the Pokemon that exist already have access to this move, and I thought this would be logical for Charizard to have it. While it wouldn't like make full sense for Charizard to use it, it's still something that it can have on its you know, move versatile squad, just to keep it nice and fresh. Up next, we're doing Blastoise, and Blastoise is a fun one. Now, Blastoise in general is a bit complicated to talk about. So, just to simply put, Blastoise has never been really good in comparison to Charizard and Venusaur competitively, so this was a pretty fun rework to do, and yeah, let's just dive right into it. So Blastoise will have a new typing. Instead of just being pure water, it will now be a water and steel type. To simply put, it has 2 fucking metal cannons in the fucking shoulder pads here on its shell. I am sorry, if that does not scream steel type, I don't know what does at this point. So water and steel type allows it to have an extra stab on Flash Cannon, which is extremely important. Plus, with the new added moves that we're making this Pokemon have, and its new rearrangements of stats, it will be a lot more powerful. Starting off, we changed its HP from being 79 to 92, a very generous buff. We gave it an attack stat of 85. We gave its defense an extra 5 points, so instead of being 100, it's now 105. Special attack 96 in comparison to 85. Its special defense has stayed the same. However, its speed stat has dropped significantly to 92. The reason being is that Blastoise now is a, drumroll please, Trick Room Pokemon. Oh my god! Yes, Blastoise is now a part of Trick Room teams. Maybe you can run it next to a Pokemon like Pelipper and or Farigiraf. That way you could just have, you know, a pretty solid Trick Room Pokemon that functions well. Plus, it's a water type. You could give it, you know, some rain with Pelipper or Kyogre. And with Rain Dish, it's just gonna heal itself. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic. I didn't change its ability. Again, I think honestly the Kanto starters don't really need any change of abilities. Their abilities are pretty fine, at least in my opinion. They don't need anything too powerful. They work just fine for what they are, so it's just fine. But I did give it a lot of new tools in terms of moves for its arsenal, starting off with Earth Power as well. Yes, just like Charizard, I think it's pretty natural that Blastoise learns Earth Power. Again, it's good coverage for this Pokemon, plus it's on the ground. I think it makes a lot of sense. I gave it Follow Me because in Generation 8, it actually had access to Follow Me. But now it just doesn't have access to it for some weird reason, so we're giving it back Follow Me. We're cool. I also gave it Heavy Slam since it also has access to Body Press, which is where I kind of want to bring back to the defensive stats and the fact that it's also a Trick Room Pokemon. It will be a very speedy Trick Room Pokemon since its speed is now at 52. Not only that, but its defensive stats are pretty much equal now. And again, since it already has access to Body Press, and Body Press uses the defensive stat instead of the attack stat, then you could just run it with Body Press if you wanted to. Which is great. It's actually really, really fantastic for Blastoise. This means that Blastoise doesn't really need to rely on using a specific water move all the time. It gives a really good coverage, plus it is now a lot more defensive than ever before. On the plus side, it has access to Iron Head. Now, I know its attack stat is not really powerful, but I still wanted to give it access to Iron Head since, you know, it's now it's also a pure steel type on top of being a water type, so that makes a whole lot of sense now. I also gave it Helping Hand, same reasoning as for Charizard. I think most Pokemon have access to Helping Hand, and I think the two of them have hands. Makes sense. Helping Hand, duh. Finally, I gave it access to Wide Guard. Now, Wide Guard is interesting here, and that is because, well, first things first, he's a pretty wide boy, and plus it gives it a pretty good support option to kind of just bring out for the team. Honestly, I think this Pokemon's very unique because now you can actually make it function in a rain setting and a Trick Room setting at the same time, and kind of like make this really cool dynamic of being a part of Trick Room, being very bulky and defensive, giving it pretty good supportive stuff, and with the added Steel typing, it just adds a lot more defense towards this Pokemon, plus an immunity to poison, which is extremely good, extremely useful. So on that very note, I think that will be it for all the Kanto starters and their buffs. One thing I will say before I end this, I was very hesitant of giving Blastoise Mega Launcher. I was very hesitant, but I just didn't, because I don't see the reasoning behind it. But anyways, on that note, do you guys agree with these buffs? Do you guys think that I've been a little bit too extreme with them? I mean, again, I think some of them make a whole lot of sense, and I think most of these buffs and most of what these Pokemon are getting now due to me fixing them actually make them a little bit better competitively. But what do you guys think? I can't wait to hear it in the comment section down below. And don't forget, drugs are bad. If you go on break, make sure you're hot. A little smooch. Moi, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys!